Camp Kilworth was deeded to the Tacoma Area Council of Boy Scouts in 1934. Due to recent declines in Scout enrollment, property ownership is now reverting back to the Kilworth family foundations. Meanwhile, the buildings sit vacant, unheated, and unmaintained. Community members are advocating for the property to remain an open space dedicated to education, as the Kilworths always intended.
It's an area that we would hope could continue teaching forest skills, environmental skills, as well as just a good place to unwind and gather. Maybe put the phone away for a bit and see what's around you.
The 1914 East Seattle School was the heart of Mercer Island's community life for nearly 70 years until the construction of the I-90 bridge shifted the island's commercial center to its present location. The property's current owner has applied for a demolition permit, likely to make way for single-family housing, which has prompted interested community members to seek a solution that will satisfy the owner's investment goals while preserving Mercer Island's oldest public building.
This is an important place. I think historic places help build the community. People can rally around a historic place. We are a very young community, and this is the oldest public building on the island. For a community like Mercer Island with such a short history, we need to do a better job of preserving those historic buildings we do have.
The 1914 STELACOOM train depot transformed Steilacoom into a travel destination for nearby larger cities. With the decline of passenger rail service, the depot is now vacant and situated too close to the railroad tracks for safe access. Local advocates would ultimately like to see the depot rehabilitated and adaptively used, but first it must be moved. A nearby town-owned parcel would provide adequate clearance from the tracks and also keep the building within its historic context.
What preservation does is it gives a new life and an awareness to the community. Historic preservation is part of the larger symphony of the built environment. I think of it as a symphony because we're adding other notes to that symphony as we do a new building, but it's that root of the historic buildings gives it a good foundation.
People viscerally react to being in an actual building that has some history to it. By being in the spaces that people have been in before, we learn a lot about who we are as people and who we are as a community.
Built in 1936, the old Arlington High School is a beautifully intact example of Art Deco architecture. With an active need for a community center in Arlington, the currently vacant school is the perfect candidate for an adaptive use project, which could also incorporate makerspaces for Arlington's active arts community.
When you walk around this building, you get a sense of how solid it is and how well built it is. And when you drive up to this building and you see the Art Deco details, and when you come in and you see all the love and the care that was put into providing this facility for kids with the foresight to serve them for years and years, that shouldn't go to waste.
In 1937, German immigrants Paul and Mary Bruggemann purchased a large ranch along the Columbia River, but in 1943, they, along with all other local residents, were evicted by the U.S. government to make way for the Manhattan Project. The recent establishment of the Hanford unit of the Manhattan Project National Historical Park has sparked a new interest in uncovering the pre-Manhattan Project history of the area, of which only 4 buildings remain. If restored, the Bruggemann Cookhouse could potentially serve as an entry point, visitors center, or interpretive space for the park.
That building speaks for the entire range of the community of all the people who lived out there and who were evicted from their lands in 1943. This is a place that is as full of stories as it is empty of things.
The Bruggemann Ranch is a part of the National Park. It's just as important to show that pre-1943 history as it is the history of how the material for the atomic bomb was created. Those are the stories that I think we need to tell and have people understand what sacrifices were made by the roughly 2,000 people who were out here. It's important.
The story of the Manhattan Project is an incredibly important one, but it's also incredibly complex. And it's why I'm so happy that the National Park Service is here, because as our nation's storytellers, they are committed to telling the whole complex story.